just playing catch up here. So I
Yeah.
think this would be the fourth iteration of my Fireside chat. And the main reason I'm doing this now is when I was editing my videos, as we just discussed before hitting the record button,
Yeah.
I was adding my own opinions and pontificating. I'm like, what are you doing? This isn't about you and what you think is happening out there. It's about the guest.
Yeah, sure.
And
But you're
talking
Intel,
about the
former Intel, so yeah.
right, but this is more about career journeys and how they got into cyber.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So then I'm like, okay, let me pull back. And then I think with one of my pre-calls with one of my previous guests, we were just talking AI, and then she's like, you should just do a fireside chat. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's where it
It's not a
started.
bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fireside chats are fun. I actually just recently guested on a person's podcast. This guy is a researcher in Australia, so I'm excited. I'll let you know when it comes out, the new
Nice.
the episode. But I talked about a story as an incident responder when I was early in my career.
Hmm.
So he interviewed me and stuff, so it's cool. Yeah, I guess it was like a fireside, but it's like he'll basically doing a thing where he gets people's stories about in the trenches because he's done it also. Very
Yeah.
nice guy. Used to work at CrowdStrike, now works at Huntress. So he's a known person.
Awesome. What's his name?
Uh,
Or
Jai Minton, I
oh
think
no.
this is yeah. But yeah, I'll send you a link to it. It's gonna be on Spotify. He said he's releasing the second episode, I think this week, I want to say. So, but
Audio
yeah,
only or video?
you think it's gonna be audio only? Yeah, because I think he might have done video. I don't know. I know it's harder because he was even saying, I mean, we agreed, both agree that we'll see. I don't know how it's
Yeah.
actually done. I think
Okay.
he's doing audio to start with right now, but
Awesome.
we
Well,
talked on camera though, just so he could see who it was he's talking
yeah,
about.
for
So
sure.
yeah.
Well, just FYI, this video is going to drop next week. So
Okay, cool. Awesome.
I don't have enough videos. I've already released all
Yeah,
the ones that I've banked. So yeah, no,
sure.
looking forward to it. So tell me how we're talking about Claude. Let's talk about
AI, yeah.
well, I
Generative AI,
frame
yes.
it
Sure.
in AI is a marketing term.
I agree
Artificial
with you.
intelligence.
Generative AI is
It's
what
all
it really is, truthfully.
right.
It
Well,
is.
I even go even deeper and call it an LLM.
Exactly. And that's
That's
where
it.
that's what I would go with. So I would say that, and we talked about this previously when I worked with you, a
Yeah.
lot of people were vendors were throwing AI around when we're
Oh my
really
God.
in machine learning and advanced
Exactly.
anomaly detection. We're not even at a point, and the concerning stuff with the AI stuff is I don't know if you've been following the stuff with. I started reading up on it. What is it? Claw Flow and Molt. I forgot what it's called.
Bolt. Now it's
Yeah,
open.
yeah. It's
Open.
AI technology. This is really stupid, whoever came
Boom.
up with this, because the concern that happened, as you know, is all that whole thing got hijacked by potentially various adversaries.
Yep.
Who knows who, but we do know that that's bad because this is essentially an AI built capability that AI was essentially developing, their own language, which,
Right.
the former CEO of Google had mentioned, one of his concerns was when we get into agentic artificial intelligence or we have agents talking to each other, could they potentially get to a point where they develop their own language, which it sounds like is what this is essentially, but really poor operational security on behalf of the individuals who set it up.
Right.
So
And that's not surprising, right?
not at all. We're still
Right.
seeing that, right? Everything is like this. Cloud was the same way, right? If you think about
Exactly.
cloud, when we first started with cloud, lots of feds were afraid of cloud. A lot of people were there were also a lot of people who were saying, oh, it's going to be more secure. That's how it was being sold. It's more
Mhm.
secure. And if we've looked over the last, I would say, decade or so, we've seen there's been more breaches involving the cloud because the cloud is not as secure. It's only as secure as you secure it, your controls. It's not a kill-all, right? Even Cloudflare, for example, gets hit, with these huge DDoS
Constantly.
attacks. And they've been taken down before. So they've come back up, but my point is nobody is sort of vulnerable, is not, or no, I had it right, invulnerable. Nobody has the ability to be invincible when it comes to this stuff, right?
Right.
But yeah,
But no, the other thing that these AI created was a
yeah,
religion. I don't know if you read that.
I've heard about this. I think it's crazy, but
It
it is
is
funny at the same time with like almost reminded me of like Terminator-esque, like
right.
very Skynet.
It's fascinating, right? But at
Yeah,
the end of the day, the way I frame it, it's an LLM and it's probability. That's it.
right.
It's
It's
what is the
human.
next
Yeah,
word,
yeah.
but I think they call it sycophancy to make it sound and be warm. And I mean, I literally have conversations with my AI and I get angry when it doesn't produce what I wanted. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
like a
agree.
normal conversation, but then I know that it's just math in the background,
Yeah,
probabilities on, okay, what is the next word? The way it puts things
exactly. Yeah,
together, it's like, it still makes you pause, right? I think I don't want to take away from all the people that created this,
of course. Yeah.
but then when they're pontificating that it's going to solve the world's biggest problems, that's where red flags go off,
Yeah, tell me about
alerts.
it. Like to that point, like one of the things I think with a lot of generative AI models, like Claude's a great example. So I've messed with different things. I haven't messed with ChatGPT, but I messed with Gemini. I'll say Claude has been very helpful as a researcher and analyst in threat hunting and in doing like
Hmm.
even cybersecurity engineering, like building a guide, a walkthrough. It's really good for people who are neurodivergent. I'll just say that right now. Because one of the things it can do is like you said, it's using probability, but it's also using human language. So you're inputting an idea
Yep.
and it's using its wealth of knowledge, its research, what it can do, like going out to the web, digging things up. And there are people who use it in a way where they got to be more careful, right? They're not doing it in a very vague way. When I'm doing it, I'm doing it in a very vague way, like very high level, like, hey, how do I integrate AWS into this type of tool, right?
Hmm.
Or something like that. So like, because recently I've been working doing engineering stuff, but
Yeah.
the idea though is like you said, there's probability associated. So like if you have, I think it's like a temperature. So a lot of the AI model LMMs have like the Bedrock models, I think with
Right.
AWS, right? They have a temperature. So if you could set the temperature to like zero point 0.7, right? You're going to have a more random, more creative answer. Whereas
Hmm.
if you set it back to 0, you're going to get like, hey, I'm talking to a person, right? Which is amazing because sometimes, especially when you're in, consulting or you work in a contract and you have a small team, you may not have somebody who can easily answer your questions for you,
Right.
which is one of the benefits, I will say this, is that can it replace a human? I don't think it can replace human interaction. I'll say that. I just don't think and I think you still need a human, right? A good example is
Agreed.
customer service, right? I don't know if you've had this. I'm sure you've experienced it. You'll call a number, customer service, and you'll get, please choose from the following options, like the stupid
Yep.
menu. It's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand that. I'm like, I'm speaking English. What do you mean you can't understand that? And I
Right.
joke, I joke afterwards. I'm like, to the customer service person, I'm like, hey, I'm glad I could get to you because I don't want to talk to this robotic, automated crap, which isn't even AI. It's probably just automated. But
Right.
you'd think at that point, and even then, AI is known as the models can create hallucinations, which we've seen show up in the news with, like, for example, I don't know if you saw the Deloitte thing with Australia. Somebody
Mm.
basically didn't AI essentially hallucinated a bunch of facts that didn't exist, things that didn't exist in an audit report. So they
Oh,
owe
wow.
Australia a lot of money, like it's $300 million or billion, I don't, some ridiculous amount of money. And then you've seen other runs where like people don't quote the right sources or that source didn't exist.
Hmm.
And like this is where, go when you're in college or in high school, you learn, MLA style, I forgot what the other one is. Oh yeah, crap. You know which one I'm talking about. The one you learn in college. So it's like how to cite your sources and stuff. Same works with AI because just because AI is giving you that information and especially if you're going to present it in a way that you're going to use it in like you're going to a conference, for example, right? It's different if you're
Hmm.
like just between your peers, right? But this is also another area, right? Like you're asking for information. It's not always accurate, and I could tell you, this is where vibe coding comes in, right? What we were like, which you've been following, I'm sure. Like people are
Yep.
just vibe coding, right? Which is that molt thing, I guess, is the way, right? If I'm not
Well,
mistaken, that was the whole joke about
no.
it.
Yeah, well, Molt is more kind of literally agentic, that automative AI. But yeah, the vibe
Yeah,
coding, again, it's a marketing term. But I want to dive deeper into the hallucinations because one
yeah.
thing that I noticed, I remember when I was talking to a former guest, she was a former bartender coming in and doing pen testing, kind of offensive
Oh wow.
security.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's loving it. And the typical questions that I ask, do you think AI is going to take your job? And, she said, no, we still need people in the loop. And in the back of my mind, this
I
was
don't.
roughly
Yeah.
like last summer. And I'm like, I
Now it's
don't know.
happening. Now you see automated pen testing tools kind of being
Well,
developed by pen
yes,
testers. Yeah.
but I think I'm going in reverse. Why? Because to that hallucinations, or what I call, it's just making crap up at the end of the day, right?
Right. Yeah.
And when I was trying to do, I'm going to be speaking overseas at a conference, and I used Claude, and I put everything in there. Make sure you ask me questions until you understand what I'm asking for, is kind of one of the prompts that I use.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't generating or
Yeah.
creating extra stuff. And I'm like, I had an epiphany. This was late last year. I'm like, it's not going to replace people, right?
I didn't think so either. And we're unfortunately like one of the things with some of the fields, right? With pen testing is a great example, red teaming. This is an area where we had already had a lot of automated capabilities, like
Right.
Synac's a great example. They're a firm that like does
Mhm.
automated pen tests and does,
Right.
outsource everything to them. And pen testing is an expensive process. It's not like the talent that you need to do it is not cheap. Um, at the same time, you still want to have a human at the end, like other end, right? Like, because like even,
Right.
but we're seeing adversaries doing the same thing, right? They're leveraging a combination of artificial intelligence, or LLMs,
Yeah.
um, you know.
There's a
But yeah,
balance though, right?
right.
But I think what's happening now, 2 or 3 years ago, CEOs of all major global corporations were hearing the AI buzz or the LLM buzz. I
Yeah,
don't want
yeah.
to. I don't want to continue with that marketing
Automation
garbage.
is really what it's called. Let's be honest. It's just
Right.
automation. It's
And
glorified automation. Yeah.
ultimately, they got to that FOMO, fear of missing out.
Like with
So
cloud. Yep.
they're
Exactly. Yeah.
spending millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and now they're
Mm,
looking at it. Oh wow! Because like for example, in my current employer,
yeah.
which I've not named, nobody really knows.
I didn't
Um,
know. That's good that they found some. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and when it comes to that, it's like nobody really knows, right? Hey, use AI, but it's not. And some people would push back on me. I think it should come from the top, right? Or create a culture where it comes from the bottom as well to understand, hey, I could do this, I could do that. But I think right now the industry is at a tipping point where
Hmm.
they let go of a lot of people, a lot of layoffs continue to happen both in IT and cyber.
Unrelated, not only to AI, but yes, agree.
Correct, right.
There's a
There's a
lot of
lot of
other
factors.
we're
There,
getting politics involved in cyber, which is annoying, which is ridiculous
correct.
because
But
you really shouldn't have that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it varies, but I know people that are hit with that,
Yeah.
obviously
It's
they want
unfortunate.
somebody to
Yeah.
blame, and it's kind of AI. AI is the easy kind of scapegoat
Escape.
right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's fascinating, but again, we're still going to need people in the loop. And as another example, AI, not AI, but CTI.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a very unique perspective of how AI should be
Yeah.
done in global corporations. I'm going to throw myself out there. In my previous chat, I had an AI colleague that I had met,
Hmm.
and I think AI people doing CTI, they're doing it all wrong. Why? Because it's underneath the SOC,
I
Security Operations
agree.
Center.
I
It
100%
needs
agree with
to
that. Yeah.
get out of the closet of the SOC in the corner, and it's got to be its own entity that reports directly to the CISO. That's
So I
my
so I don't disagree with that, but I'm also under the impression that like we have too many silos in many organizations, and like this is where I would this is playing devil's advocate as someone
no.
who's been on both sides. Yeah. So what I mean? Like CTI in general, I think just like threat hunting, like a lot of people see threat hunting, don't think CTI plays a role into threat hunting. And it plays a huge role.
Yep.
Because especially for initial capabilities when people are developing a threat hunt program in their organization.
Correct.
The SOC, at the end of the day, is also providing information and useful data points that can lead to building intel in your house, in-house. It can lead to building, specialized detections. It can lead to threat hunt opportunity, new opportunities where there's ideally like the thing with Chris, which Chris created. What you remember when he was at
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we worked with us, he had an idea of the OODA loop, which is a term that was, I think, captured by Squirrel Does It with their back in, I don't even know if they still exist, but they were essentially a hunt
Military.
mature. Yeah, yeah, the hunt
Yeah.
maturity model, the OODA loop. This is a term, the term that like you're thinking about, like you have both, but in the way that I think of it is I think of it's like a conveyor belt, right? Everybody is going more or less like back and forth sharing with each other, right? That's really the goal, right? So like you want to share with people. You want to, and that's how you get better. Just like AI, if you think about it.
I love your perspective on this
Yeah.
because you're right. We
Yeah.
are in a siloed environment. And another guest that I interviewed, I think I released, her name was Smear T.
Hmm.
I talked to her late last year and she talked about systems theory. She was coming from the biomedical engineer field
Hmm.
into cyber. And I'm like, hey, I'm pretty ignorant. Can you elaborate a little bit on systems theory? And she said how everything's interconnected, but we live or we view the world in a linear fashion,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Whether it's coming down from the CISO, the managing director, all the directors and managers, whatever. But to your point, everything is interconnected. The
Right.
problem is everyone is in their little silos,
Which is a
but
problem. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is a problem. And so now what I'm doing kind of, extracurricular activity outside of work,
Hmm.
I am looking at systems theory and how we can bridge that or use that to solve our biggest pain points in cyber. Because right now, will more money make us safer?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
right?
You could have the Cadillac of everything and you're not gonna, it's
Correct.
still gonna get hacked. Like the
So
human element is here still. Like you don't just, yeah.
And to your
Yeah.
point about the cloud, I think now, yes, people are still getting compromised via the cloud, but the complexity is just enormous. We keep on buying
Yes.
tools, all of this shadow IT. I mean,
Right, you're just adding things on top. And then that's the thing. When you have I'm a big thing of quality over quantity, where some people are like, "Oh, how many incidents did you solve? How many things did you prevent?" Why not working collaboratively and then you create your own, in-house intelligence? Now, obviously this requires a lot. You
for
need to
sure.
have a mature state, you need to have mature SOC, et cetera. But yeah, to your point, like you keep stacking all these tools, and I always tell this to people, like, hey, you have all these tools, you have the data, you don't need any more tools, you don't need more redundancy. What you do need to do is you need to get your personnel or your employees trained on the existing tools, get them to understand it before you start buying more tools. And then, you'll have somebody coming into a contract who will be like telling the customer, "Oh,
Yeah.
you should get this." And like, don't get me wrong, that is what it has. It has become that. There's been a lot of salesy, and AI has been pushed, by the way, a lot where we are now,
Same,
yeah.
same,
No, I'm saying where you
same.
used to be, you'd be dealing with AI. You'd have to take a lot of training and all this stuff now. They
Which
pushed it.
which is not a
Yeah.
bad thing, right? But
Right.
again, you have to understand, how is AI going to help your business reduce risk?
And how is it going to help? What are you using? So this is how I think of it.
Sure.
When I think of AI, I think of it as it's a tool, right? It's not a solution. It's not a prop. It's not going to make my day, make everything better. It's not going to like,
Right.
create world peace. It's a tool. Like just like you think of Miter Attack, a great example. That's a
Yeah.
tool. I don't think, if we're gonna look at realistic, like more realism, like a screwdriver, right? It's a tool. It's not meant to like open your door open. It's meant to help you with certain things. The way I think of AI is that it helps us do the monotonous tasks or the mundane tasks and make our lives easier, whether that's building documentation, whether that's creating like a script that we can then, ask someone to like do a review or build pseudocode. For those of us who, for example, are not coders, like I am one of them, I'm not a coder, but I've
Same.
learned to use it, to help me. As someone who's neurodivergent, it can help me understand better ways of communicating a thought. right? Like
Mhm.
there is a lot of benefits if we think of AI as not so much as like a selling mechanism, right? And a thing where we just sell it, right? Because that's what has happened. We're a capitalist society. This is just how it is, right? We sell, sell, sell.
Mhm.
So like the idea I think of when I think of AI is I think of it as, it's not going to take away my job. What it is going to do is it's going to speed up the process. For example, when I'm building threat hunt queries,
Yeah.
I was asking it, can you create a KQL query for this like this use case?
Mhm.
And I'd obviously still have to go through it and tweak it and stuff, but I'm saving myself trouble of having to go Google everything, look everything up, and it's
Right.
pulling everything up together. Or today, for example, I asked it, can you write up a step-by-step guide on how to integrate, what is it, AWS CloudWatch into Waza? Because I have no idea what Waza. I've heard of Waza. It's an open
Hmm.
source tool. It uses backend Kibana,
Okay.
but that actually worked. So I kept tweaking it. I tried it on my pro account first, then I tried it
Mhm.
on our company AI we have. And then, which is Claude. I had Claude access, so I went and tried that.
Hmm.
And then I went through the document, followed the instructions, and got it to work. And it showed, oh, look, the index pattern is showing up now. And I'm like, okay. And this is someone who's not
Yeah.
like, I'm not an engineer. I haven't engineered since like 2015. So like, this was cool. And it was a tool. I'm not saying it's going to replace things. I even said to people, I said like, hey, these still need to be tested. I said in our like documentation they asked me to help with, like, hey, this still needs to be tweaked. I don't want to say these are examples. That doesn't mean you should use these as like, gospel. The idea is like you're using to help take your brain, right? You're giving
Mhm.
it what's in your mind, right? Instead of writing it down or having a conversation with somebody and you're saying, hey, can you create a step by step, right? And for some people, that's very helpful. When you have a step by step,
Yep.
I'm very process oriented, as you know. So like that's how I view it. I view it as a tool to helping me like make my communication better, help me orient my tasks better,
Mhm.
understand like how to learn things. Like it really depends. What are you going to get out of it, right? That's the end of the day. At the end of the day, when you're using these tools, you have to understand you have to have a goal, right, in mind of what you're doing with it. Are you just,
Strategy.
yeah, exactly, strategy. So like with CTI, for example, if you're going to build a tool in AI, like you want to solve a problem, right? That's your goal, right? So like one thing I was doing was trying to figure out how to pull raw indicators out of like OSINT reporting. Like just so instead of have an RSS feed,
Mhm.
I obviously haven't had a lot of time to work on this, but the idea basically was to pull out indicators of compromise and indicators of attack. So text code words. They're words that like I talked in my presentation years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um with like puzzle pieces or like, puzzle pieces within there, right?
Mhm.
Like and then pull that out and then differentiate that into like a document or something that would then you could easily upload say the indicators of course compromise into your SIM, your EDR, whatever. But the goal is really instead of someone having to manually do it, because like right now a lot of these are very manual.
Right.
um but finding ways to like solve a problem, right? That's the best way as a society we should think of AI. Should figure out not it doesn't solve the problem, but it may help us think from a higher perspective, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe this because we already have that background, right? The knowledge to give it that. So yeah.
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 Yeah. I guess just the way everything that you said, I definitely agree with.
Hmm.
It augments our intelligence at the end of the day. It doesn't
Right.
replace us. Even
Exactly. Yes.
even though these Silicon Valley bros think that it's going to replace us and we're going to need universal basic income and all of this shenanigans that they're spewing out there. So where do you see? I don't like, at the end of the year, everybody loves to pontificate. Oh, this is what's going to happen
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
tech or politics or whatever. And I don't really like that because we're crappy at predicting anything, right? And
The Simpsons is better at predicting things than we are, to be totally upfront with you. Like they've
true.
predicted everything in the last
Well,
stuff.
I
So like
mean,
it's
they've been
insane
going
and
for
scary.
80 years, so
Yeah, it's
all
pretty
stories
insane.
have been
Yeah.
have been released based on that particular show. But again, I'm not to predict, but what do you think if we do this conversation a year from now?
Yeah.
What would have passed? Do we see more massive layoffs? Do we see leaps in the capability of these LLMs to say, oh, wow, okay, now this is pretty cool? What
So
are your thoughts?
so I see a lot more cyber campaigns involving AI, and I see
Oh,
a point to a
from
point. Oh,
from the adversaries perspective?
from the adversary's perspective,
Oh,
because of the
okay.
fact we're putting it everywhere. And we've already started seeing this. There was a report by
Anthropic.
Cisco.
No?
Yeah, no, by Cisco actually,
Ooh.
Talos, about oh my God, Void Link, which they're cat calling. It's a malware framework targeting Linux cloud systems that an individual, they believe right now, they assess that an individual created it on their own with generative AI. There was
Mm,
nobody else, they created that. So like, whether it's, and apparently it works, it's legit malware. So like, it's a sophisticated framework that
yeah.
basically is going after and I'll send you the article,
Yeah,
remind me
yeah.
after this, I'll send it to you. But what I do see, similar to like what happened with the cloud era and the boot, the tech boom, the World Wide Web, et cetera, when I was younger.
Yeah.
I do see us, one, adapting. I see society in general becoming like using it as a tool. I also unfortunately see us relying on it too much, which is a problem because if we look at AI with social media right now, a lot of people rely on social media. A lot. Like, and I'm talking about the entire, like, every
But
generation, a lot of generations. Like,
when you say rely, what do you mean?
so like it's that tool that you can, how like you have a smartphone, you can't shut it off. There's people who just have addiction. They love looking at their feed. They love,
Yeah.
like, that is what I'm talking about. It creates an idea that we think we can replace a human interaction with AI. Like, we've seen this in the
Got it.
news,
Okay.
that type of stuff. People thinking, oh, I don't have friends, I don't have a girlfriend, I can make an AI. Like, to that level. I don't think it'll be as expansive, but I do think from a cyber perspective, because I think
Hmm.
especially with the current status quo on what's going on with cuts within the cyber world, within the federal government
Yep.
when it comes to cyber operations and cyber capabilities, we will see an increase in my belief in adversary targeted AI campaigns. We're already seeing that in social engineering. We're
Yeah.
seeing phishing kits that are built in AI.
Hmm.
We are seeing not just criminal actors, but we're seeing, the Beck scam stuff. I expect to continue to see that. I don't think a cyber company that has AI built in their technology is frankly going to be able to stop these threats, because and this is sort of the idea I have when it comes to cyber, there's a
Yep.
human element at the end of the day. And like, you could be CrowdStrike, you could be whoever, right? You could be Microsoft. At the end of the day, there's a human on the other side of that computer.
Hmm.
It's not all going to be automated. Like, yes, there's automation, but the problem with automation is it's a lot easier to detect that stuff these days. So what we're seeing, at least, like, for example, China, PRC,
Hmm.
is, I think, we will continue to see them being more aggressive, more target. Like, so there was a report. I mean, obviously the Anthropic thing, I know about that. There was also a report where I think it was Google Mandiant was talking about and Microsoft also talking about, like, they'd been watching various adversaries starting to leverage artificial intelligence and LLMs to try and
Mm.
ask it questions like we're asking, right? But more or less to get quick information on vulnerabilities, to speed
Hmm.
up. So what I think is going to happen is, and genuinely do agree with, I think this is where we're going. They're going to get faster and they're going to get quicker. Like, China is accelerating with zero-day exploitation almost like 3 months in advance.
Hmm.
This is something that is scary because, as you know, vendors don't ever have that visibility, right? They either
Right.
don't pay their bug people enough, or they cancel their bug programs, or they just, like, someone finds a zero day and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna give you nothing," right?
Right.
That kind of thing, right? We've seen that. But truthfully, like, we're seeing it. It's happening like day to day. Like, I'm going online and I'm seeing there's a new compromise. There's a supply chain. Like,
Hmm.
you have AI supply chains. When you start integrating AI into Salesforce, you start AI integrating into that, and it connects to other things. Like we were talking about, like, you stack tools on top of tools. When you
Right.
start
Right.
adding AI into an infrastructure, right, your existing infrastructure, and you don't have the proper security mechanisms, you don't have the controls, you don't have a good grasp of, like, usage and how you want it used.
Strategy, governance.
Exactly. Compliance. Like, security controls are essentially like, some organizations, I will say, are doing very good with how they're handling AI. They're not rushing it out. They're having it through test groups. They're doing it through pools. That's
Hmm.
a smart approach.
Yeah.
And I
Agreed.
will say that that some of the agencies are doing that. I don't agree with just throwing it everywhere, right? With just shoving it out and saying, "Hey, government, you can have all this AI for free." nothing is free in cyber. And like if someone says
True.
we'll give you the sensor for free, that means they're going to pull in your data, right? Like
Yeah.
truthfully.
So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, Max, and not to put words in your mouth there,
Yeah.
that the adversaries are going to be leveraging LLMs more this coming year. So then are you predicting, or are you saying that it's just going to be a tidal wave of data breach after data breach after data breach this
I've
year?
been saying that already. Like I've been constantly seeing that. I'm hearing breach, breach, breach. Like there's been what I think there's been like 20 breaches this year so far, and we've
But
only in like the first month.
how can we attribute that unless we're like behind the scenes doing the
Right.
forensic work
So
associated with the LLMs?
truthfully, like the pattern of behavior we're observing, like in just the techniques, the tactics adversaries are leveraging,
Got it.
they're doing things that are more, even MITRE's adding things now for AI because they're
Mm,
concerned. Like they've started adding stuff they've added more to cloud, they've added more to development tools, right?
right.
Like the Notepad++ thing is a great example. There is no way in hell, in my opinion, that that was just something they just put together, right? I'm sorry. So like it wasn't a vulnerability. It was essentially a flaw in how the update software worked. But at the same time, Notepad++ has gotten targeted before.
Yeah.
But what do you think if like they could do this in like record time? So like one of the 0 days I think for Microsoft or Google that was outlined not too long ago, I think they mentioned that China had essentially, if I recall, Mandy and Evangelist was saying like they had it more or less um it done it in less than 4 months or something before, or
Wow.
some of them were like a year before the thing was published.
Hmm.
So like that is the concern I have. And I'm not saying every adversary is going to have this capability, but the ones that are the most destructive to Western civilization, like Western culture, like to the West, and
Right.
targeting, Southeast Asia, anyone who supports Taiwan, right? Like, I think our reliance on it, our desire to utilize it, means we also have to understand how to best defend it. And this is where I'm
Hmm.
going with this, as in you won't have that issue if you understand your ecosystem, you understand and have that visibility. And this is like with Edge Appliance, a great example. If you notice with Edge Appliance, we continue to see that regularly because
Hmm.
those devices were never designed with security first in mind. Like firewalls, switches, routers, the reason they get targeted so much is because we don't have visibility in that, because they were never designed to have like an EDR placed on them. And honestly, if somebody comes up with that, they're going to have $1 billion if they can figure out a way to do that without interfering with the
Right.
actual operating of the. But that same idea, like there are companies talking about integrating AI into critical infrastructure. I think that's a dangerous idea. Just saying from a perspective as
I
how
agree.
long it took them to figure out how to put, to get into cloud or even move into like more newer versions of Windows or Linux, right?
Yeah.
Unix. It's like it's a dangerous thing because we don't like with the thing with the molt. I forgot what it's called. Molt. What is it?
Moltbot.
Moltbot. So that
Yeah.
whole thing, right? What if you create a situation with that type of stuff where the technology and OT is unique because it's like got a single gut job, right? If you
Hmm.
give it, ask AI to give it something, right? Or you program AI, give it a script, it's possible hallucination could cause it to not do the job it's supposed to do. So like this is where I think there has to be more research, like you said, more governance associated with AI. I think we like genuinely that is how you prevent this tidal wave of threats that potentially come to fruition, right?
So
By yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I agree. So let's leave on a positive note because you
sure.
really got me all all depressed here. It's like, oh my
I'm
God, it's gonna
sorry,
be
man. It's
crazy.
my,
Well,
I
I
work in
mean,
this field. It's just what we do. It's
no,
for,
I
it's
know
not
from a
forensics at least.
yeah, from a network defender
Yeah,
perspective, I know it's gonna be hard for everyone, especially with the cuts to government, cuts to private
Department of
sector.
Homeland. Yeah, don't even get me
Right.
started.
It's just crazy. So, how do we, the people that are fortunate to still have,
Sure, the
work,
greater good. Yeah,
how do we
yeah,
defend? What's something that we can do
sure.
in our respective areas to affect the defender
So
side
I
positively?
guess, yeah, yeah. So if your network, I guess we're talking network stuff. Let's start with
Yep.
network. You can look at patterns of behavior involving traffic to, engine AI sites, for example. So like you could potentially monitor, um, your user base specifically because potentially that. So I'm thinking of it more from like a user risk, like creating risk. But one way
Okay.
is you can prevent that and that level, right? At that layer. So you could monitor, you could block AI sites and only limit it to like what your organization allows, right?
Hmm.
This one prevents potential inadvertent, leakage of data or someone providing accidentally sensitive data to the cloud up to like
Right.
Claude or, and it also then makes your defenders' lives easier because then they're like, oh yay, I don't have to worry about responding to this because there's not a huge concern there, right? And I'm thinking of like what we have visibility into, right? Not so much with the external, right?
Hmm.
So that would be one way for network. You could look at traffic patterns, like see if people are actually regularly going to AI sites. Obviously, there are AI sites and they have articles and stuff on them that's different. I'm talking about specifically prompt engineering, like or someone going in
Right.
that's
Right.
not approved, basically, right? So that's one way you could stop or prevent threats from an internal perspective.
So, but that's technical. What would you tell the
Oh, sure,
executives?
sure.
What would you
So I
tell the
would tell
executives?
them you should block AI sites or artificial intelligence, language, LLM sites, anything that you believe does not fit your governance and only allow approved software, approved applications. That's what I would say. You should have
Love
an
it.
application approval process where you have a security review of your processes and your applications. That's the first step. That's what I would tell them. I would say if you don't have that, you shouldn't be integrating AI, putting AI everywhere. You should have a software, basically a review program or some
Yeah.
way where you have whether it's like some sort of documentation process where you put in a ticket, it goes through like a person who's doing vulnerability evaluations and reviewing the code, making sure that whatever is being and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So basically
No.
having that element, that's less technical. That's just saying, hey, review what you put in place. Just because it's open source and it's free doesn't mean
Hmm.
it's free. That would be the one thing I'd say.
Right. No, I
That's
like
from a
that.
network perspective. And from an endpoint perspective, like set, ensure you have good security controls to prevent individuals from, releasing data that is otherwise valuable to the company,
Hmm.
whether that's DLP, um, or some sort of insider threat type UA user analytic behavioral analytics tool. Like
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going in this direction. I think honestly, the scary thing I would say, well, not scary thing, the one thing I will say about AI also is not just from an external perspective, but it can be leveraged by an insider as well. So like I think we're going to actually see probably the good news for people is I think
Hmm.
there will be an increase in jobs when it comes to insider threat roles, because I think that's going to become a thing. A more of a prevalent thing than it has been in the last decade or so. Like it has been a thing, right? We hear about it every now, you have
Right. Right.
Snowden, you have all the different people. But point is like
Interesting.
you just got to think about like people are going through hardships, people are going through stuff. Like why not protect your organization and ensure that you have good controls and detection in place to identify, but also help those people out if say they're struggling. Like that is the easiest way to prevent these things is to understand there's a human at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like my philosophy with the thing I'm going to be building is it's all about humans, like the human cyber element.
And
So
yeah,
yeah.
no matter what happens, I know we'll be long gone 200, 500 years from now. It's
Who
always going to be
knows? China might
humans,
still,
right?
they might be replaced in their organs. You heard that? Like,
Oh no, I haven't
did you
heard that.
not see that? So Kim
No.
Jong Un, Xi Jinping, and Putin were all when they all met. I think for what was it called? I think it was not some summit they did. I think in
Hmm.
Russia, they're all hanging out and talking basically about how like, oh, we can transplant our organs back and forth so we can live forever. I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh God,
God.
please no.
That is, I don't know
Just
why.
makes me think of Futurama.
I know. I don't know what's the fascination with Silicon Valley and people in power wanting to live forever.
I don't know.
Um,
I think
it's
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 movies and media, honestly, have done that. Truthfully,
or
like,
some egotistical slant there. But Max, this has been awesome. It was good catching up with you.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah,
Definitely
let's
do this again someday. Yeah, just let me
for
know.
sure. And whenever you get with your podcast, I'd love to be on and
Yeah, I'd love to
we can
invite you.
talk
Yeah,
about it.
sure.
Awesome.
Sounds good, Danny.
Thanks.